22nd February, 1:11 p.m. Naruhodo's legal consultancy. Phew, we made it back in one piece. Just. To be perfectly honest, I thought we were finished there for a while. Oh, I know. What a lot of close shaves. There are so many carriages on the streets of London. You were nearly flattened several times. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. Yes, I know. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just realized my VTuber thing is messed up, but that's because I think I had turned it on before the audio was fixed, so let me fix that really quick. 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. Let's continue. Yes, I know. It was a marvelous defense, Naruhodo-san. It really was. I was in awe of you. Oh, thank you. And now that your fervent exploits have won us some more precious investigation time. Let's see if we can't find some new clues for court tomorrow. Yes, let's do that. Is everything alright? I suppose. I still can't quite believe it, that's all. And I'm here in England, working as a lawyer, I mean. In the Old Bailey, no less. The truth is, it shouldn't be me, should it? It should be him standing in my shoes. It should be Kazuma. It was Kazuma-sama's wish that you follow him to Great Britain and work alongside him. Yes, I mean, I never had the chance to ask him exactly why, but he clearly had a plan. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. And you're doing wonderfully, Naruhodo-san. I have no doubt that Kazuma-sama would say exactly the same if he were here with us. Thank you, Susato-san. Thank you. Today's trial. It was quite a shock earlier today, wasn't it? When the victim himself turned up in court and took the stand. I know. Not only that, but then finding out that he is actually a barefaced gas thief as well. Yes, that was certainly a surprise to us all. For a while, it seems as though everyone had quite forgotten about Soseki-san poisoning the tea. Careful of your phrasing, Susato-san. He didn't poison anything. There's more to this Mr. Shamspear than we yet know, I'm sure of it. Mr. Shamspear certainly wasn't the noble, upstanding man everyone thought he was at first. What's become of him, actually? I was told that he'd be returned to the hospital where he was receiving treatment. Oh, which one is that? Let me see. Ah, yes, he's at St. Bartholomew's, or Bart's as Londoners call it. We know that place, don't we? Yes, we visited Miss Green there yesterday. It's the same hospital to which she was taken. Ah, yes, after Soseki-san stabbed her in the back. Do be careful of your phrasing, Naruhodo-san. He didn't stab anyone. Perhaps we both owe Soseki-san an apology. St. Bartholomew's, yes. We should probably visit the hospital later. So, we know that Soseki-san took the tea to the victim on the night in question. But as he isn't the culprit, then obviously... Yes, the poison surely wasn't in the tea. But if that's the case, how on earth did the poison get into Mr. Shamspear's body? I'm sure we'll find a clue at the scene. There must be something in Mr. Shamspear's room that will help solve the mystery. Well, naturally Scotland Yard detectives have been over the place already. But it couldn't hurt for us to have another look around, I think. Definitely. I'm desperate to know the outcome of the investigation into the tea left in the bar soap. Well, if we run into Inspector Gregson, we could ask him about that. Kazuma Asogi, the best friend I ever had, and a lawyer with such promise. He really saved my bacon in that horrible incident, just before we left Japan. I can still picture him now, looking so fierce and determined in court. And then after the trial, that crazy idea he came up with. As a stowaway? Yes, you can fit inside my trunk if you curl up small enough, I'm sure. No one will know. Kazuma, won't you tell me why? Why go to these lengths so I can accompany you to Great Britain? Well, it's been on my mind ever since we got through that trial. That you really ought to go into law. Be a defense lawyer. You've got a natural talent for it. Believe me, I guarantee it. I've never even thought about becoming a lawyer. Well, I can't force you, obviously. You'll have to decide for yourself. But anyway, London is the cultural capital of the world, the city at the forefront of everything. It can't hurt for you to see it with your own eyes. No, that's true. I suppose, though, if you were to become a lawyer, then one day... One day what? Oh, no. Never mind. Hmm? Naruhodo-san? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about Kazuma. Yes. He's forever in my thoughts, too. To change the Japanese judicial system for the better. That was his dream. And that's why he so desperately wanted to come to Great Britain to study, of course. Yes, that's right. But... Yes? I do wonder if his true intentions lay elsewhere sometimes. I don't know. The thought just takes hold of me every now and then, that's all. Naruhodo-san, what do you mean by Kazuma-sama's true intentions? I mean this. His katana? I never expected to inherit this sword after Kazuma passed away, of course. No, I know. It was because I asked you to take it. When I have it at my side in court, I feel as though it gives me courage. Yes. Actually, the night before he died, he told me a little about the sword. Karuma. That's right. It's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Karuma guides me. I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two? Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. Something you have to do? Yes. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. What did he mean by something very important that I have to do? I'd hoped that the answer to that question would become apparent when we arrived here, but... as yet, I've not found a single clue. I see. So I guess we can move to Mr. Shannon's room, because that's what we were talking about earlier. Hopefully we can talk to him. Or take a look in the room, I mean. 22nd February. Mr. Natsume's lodgings, ground floor. Oh! Hello again, Inspector Gregson. What are you doing here? Well, we were hoping to have another look around, actually. The lawyer representing the defendant has a right to examine the scene, as I'm sure you're aware. Yeah, I know the score. Oh, yes. One other thing. The soap on the ledge outside the window. Did you find it, with the tea in it? Yeah, we found it all right. And there was a small amount of tea in it, as you said. I knew it! It's with the identification section at the yard now. They're looking into it. The results should be available later today. That's wonderful news. Thank you. Pretty impressive performance in the court this morning. Sorry? Nothing. Forget it. Just make sure you don't disturb anything in here. Okay. I mean, let's talk to you first, I guess. If we can. Are you looking for new clues, Inspector?
On Lord Van Ziek's orders, yeah. Don't come back till you've got something for me, he says.
Oh dear. Poor you.
Yeah, poor me. Because we've already searched every big nook and cranny in this place. I don't know what he expects, to be honest. Thank goodness for warm chips is all I can say.
Well, at least he's honest. Sun never shines in this room, thanks to that depressing bricked-up window. Yet, with enough determination, you can always remove the bricks to set some soap outside, can't you? That sounds like a very wise life lesson, Mr. Sato. Only if you plan to follow a life of crime, Mr. Naruhodo. Anything else in this room? I already looked at that paper. Ah, the ill-fated teacups from which the two men drank on the ill-fated night. During their heated literary debate, yes. Who's stronger, Romeo or Juliet? It sounds like it was quite a discussion. Now I think of it, I'm sure that the two lovers in the play ended their lives with poison. That's fiction, Mr. Sato. Let's hope it stays that way. Ha 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 ha. So it turns out that Mr. Shamster wasn't eating the soap at all. That's right. The mystery of why he had it on the plate whilst holding a fork in his hand is solved. Yes, to prize his latest ice coin out of its mold. And in the process, he accidentally broke the bar of soap in two. It certainly was hard to imagine, let alone deduce. If you ran out of change, you wouldn't even have any light, let alone heat. For the needy, London's winters can be very harsh. That's true, but if you think about it, even the wealthy could find themselves freezing if they ran on a small change. London winters can be very harsh for the forgetful too, then. Frankly, I'm starting to wonder if Susato-san and I are going to make it to spring. That's true. We don't even have a meter at Baker Street, let alone a gas stove. Look how dark the sand on the floor is underneath the meter here. Yes, from all the water dripping out after the ice coins melted, as you established in court this morning. It's a very large and obvious stain, isn't it? Mr. Shamster must have used an awful lot of ice coins, I suppose. It was an ingenious idea, I'll give him that. Box? This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it? Where does the audience sit, though, for the nightly Shakespeare performances? Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office. What? Then you can practice your art every single day. I'll think about it, if you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge. Well, if that would help you achieve your goal. This I have to see. Okay, well we didn't find anything new either, I guess. Maybe we should just move on. Try to find somewhere else to go. We can go to the hospital, maybe? And try to talk to Mr. Shamspere. 22nd February. St. Bartholomew's Hospital, Recovery Ward. What do you suppose is happening? It sounds like some sort of disturbance. Yes, I hear angry voices. Oh no.
Be not angry, O ample lady. Verily, thou art mistaken. Mistaken by foot. You are looking at my painting. The eye of a man hath not heard. The ear of a man hath not seen. 'Twas foul indeed, the poison that moustache villain gaveth me. Forgive me, lady. I wish that you died from that poison. God a mercy, ample lady. But thou seest, I have vigour still. Behold, my Shamspere dance.
This looks rather ominous, doesn't it?
Ah, lo, 'tis the lawyer from the land whence riseth the sun. How now?
What are you doing here, Mr. Shamspere?
Mary, I do believe I returned to another ward.
Unto another ward.
He was looking, that's what he was doing, looking at my terrible work. Eastern fellow, so dark clad. Faith, thy work in court this morning was wonderful. I do applaud thee.
Oh, well, thank you.
But that doesn't mean things will go so wonderfully for you tomorrow, does it?
Anon. Excellent.
Mr. Shamshire might technically be the victim in this case. There's something definitely a lot more to it than that. It's very hard to pin the man down.
I'm so sorry. I'm such an awful person.
Ah, Miss Green, is everything alright?
Oh, yes, I mean, don't worry about me. They're about to discharge me, so I must get ready to leave now.
Oh, I see. We're delighted that you'll soon be well enough to go home, Miss Green.
Oh dear, you are too kind. I don't deserve it.
Oh, Mr. Shamshire is not here anymore. At least as far as we can see. So, are you feeling more like yourself today, Miss Green?
I am. Thank you. I mean, people do recover from ordeals like this, don't they? Even people like me.
Well, yes. It really was an ordeal, wasn't it?
As far as I was concerned, I was just walking along in the snow and even minding my own business. And then, completely out of the blue, I was struck in the back by a knife and collapsed unconscious for days. Of course, when I finally woke up again yesterday, the whole business had been cleared up already.
What a terrible week it's been for you.
Oh no, I'm sure I'm very lucky, really. I'll look back on this fondly.
Really?
Anyway, I must be getting my things together now, so I'm ready to be discharged.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry to take up your time when you're obviously busy. Ah, this looks like the treatment notes for whoever's occupying this bed. Let's see. Do not permit to run around the hospital. The patient doesn't seem to be here at the moment, so he or she is probably running out of the hospital then. Oh dear, how worrying. What's worrying is why they haven't discharged the patient yet. There are all sorts of medicines in this cabinet, look. I'm not sure if it's safe leaving them in reach of everyone like this. Yes, you're right. I can imagine if you were peckish, you might try a whole bottle or two. Well, at least there seems to be a little lock to secure the cabinet doors. I don't imagine that would stop you if you were hungry. I'd worry that you break the lock. Hunger doesn't turn me into a criminal, you know, Miss Susato. Anything else? That must be a bag of Miss Green's personal belongings. She would have been brought directly here after she was found stabbed on the pavement, though. I expect a friend or family member probably brought some things for her. Alright then, let's see what's inside. A change of clothes, no doubt, and... No, Mr. Naruhodo, you must never scrutinize a young maiden's personal belongings. The young maiden might have chocolates, or biscuits, or caramel. Wow. Okay, well let's stop by Sholmes' Suite and see if Iris is there. Maybe we can have something to do there, but I'm not sure.
Oh, Runo and Susie, hooray, you're back.
Hello, Iris. You're in fine spirits as always, I see.
I am. And you look as immaculately presented as ever, Susie.
Oh, you flatter me.
Well, you couldn't have come at a better time. I've just made a pot of tea. I'll set some cups.
Really? Thanks, Iris. But actually, what is that foul smell?
Aha! The Wanderers return at last. Where on earth have the pair of you two been?
We've been in court.
Oh, for Mr. Mustache's case. That was today, was it?
I'm sure I mentioned it only yesterday, Mr. Sholmes.
I'm sure. You think you did. Ha 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 ha. Well, we can laugh about it now. So tell me, how did the trial go?
Reasonably well so far. We managed to escape without a guilty verdict at least.
Really? I would have liked to see it. And I must pass the time of day with Mr. Reaper again. It's been too long.
Is Lord Van Zeeks an acquaintance, Mr. Sholmes? Naturally. There's not a person in the world who doesn't know my name, Mr. Naruhodo. Not quite what I asked, but still.
Mr. Sholmes? Whatever is that odor?
Yes, what is it? It's faint, but absolutely awful. Ah, indeed. That's a scent of victory, my dear fellows. Victory in science. Oh, dear. Alright, I'll bite. What's he up to now? What are you up to, Mr. Sholmes? Lord Baruch Van Zeeks. Yes, it's an interesting sobriquet he has, isn't it? The Reaper of the Bailey. Once the legendary prosecutor has fought for someone's conviction, that person is doomed. Even if he or she is found not guilty by the courts, sooner or later the hapless soul will vanish from the capital. But vanish how exactly? By falling under a passing carriage, or drowning in the Thames, or succumbing to a sudden fever, or quite out of the blue, being set upon by a highwayman. There are numerous routes to one's final terminus. Terminus, my dear fellow. It all seems a little far-fetched, really. Well, on the bright side, Mr. Mustache is fighting fit, for the time being at least. That's not overly reassuring.
If the rumors are true, though, the obvious conclusion would surely be that those acquitted are, well, by Lord Van Zeeks' own hand.
As it happens, Miss Susato, that's quite impossible.
Oh? Why?
Naturally, the man very quickly came under such suspicion. However, whenever these incidents occurred, the Reaper always had a cast-iron alibi.
Really?
And so his reign continued, but 5 years ago, he vanished from the courts, never to appear as a prosecutor again. That is, until you arrived in the country, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, so I've heard. In fact, it was the very day I arrived, when I was thrust into that trial at the Old Bailey. That bitter fight to the death coincided with the Reaper's resurrection. And really did end bitterly indeed. And here you are, facing Mr. Reaper again.
Poor Runo. I don't know if you're just incredibly unlucky, or incredibly unlikable.
I think it goes deeper than just me. I sense a general loathing of all Japanese people. With Mr. Natsume, who I'm currently defending, being Japanese as well as Miss Susato and myself. I felt it even more keenly in court today. For some reason, Lord Van Zeeks seems to have an inherent disdain of the Japanese. Indeed. It is an interesting observation.
Do you know something about it? Do you, Mr. Sholmes?
It was about 10 years ago that Baruch Van Zeeks chose to enter the legal profession. However, before that time, the young man's closest companion hailed from the Empire of Japan.
No! What the? Tell us more, Mr. Sholmes. What happened?
I believe I've made it clear before. I'm unable to tell you anything about the affair.
Oh, but...
The veil will be lifted on the events of the past, in due course, I have no doubt. For now, however, it is Mr. Mustache who is most deserving of your attention, I believe. So, what is that indescribably foul smell? Ah, well, most probably this, I would say. What is that? My dear fellow, it is of course my latest invention. A chemical test that can identify whether or not a tea is genuine at the drop of some tea.
Oh my!
There are some unscrupulous sorts manning the stalls among some of London's less frequented streets. They regularly sell what purports to be high-quality tea, but is in fact merely dyed leaves of drab flavour. Well, that's certainly unsavoury behaviour. So, when one is presented with what appears to be black tea, one must be careful. Iris.
At the ready, Hurley.
Let us add a drop of my chemical to this cup of tea here. Do you see what happens? It's turned completely black. What a foul odor it's giving off. Indeed, the blacker the tea becomes, the more foul the odor, the better the tea is. It would appear that this cup was a particularly fine Darjeeling. That's very ingenious. But what do you do with that black liquid now? I dispose of it, naturally. Surely you wouldn't like to drink it, would you? There does seem to be a rather obvious problem with your new invention, Mr. Sholmes. Hence why this chemical test is merely a test, my dear madam. Right. The point is, we are entering a new era of science. In the world of criminal investigation, also.
Yes, forensic science. Oh, these are such exciting times.
I regularly engage in this scientific experimentation alongside my unofficial consulting detective work. The Herlock-Sholmes method will be the foundation upon which modern investigative technique is based. This little tea indicant was my happy byproduct of my ongoing forensic science research. Forensic science? I suppose I should find out more about that. So, your tea test. Is that an example of forensic science? Indeed it is. An essential tool in cases that hinge upon the knowledge of whether some tea is of high or inferior quality. Not a huge number of cases, then. Perhaps a more practical example is required. Fingerprints? Not yet accepted in our courts as evidence, I might add. Really, we are dragging our heels here. Haven't even heard of them until recently. Which is partly why I undertake research in this field myself, of course.
Does that mean you're studying fingerprints, Mr. Sholmes?
There are others in that field already, and I abhor the company of inferior minds. No, what I'm researching is skin prints. Skin prints? A nomenclature of my own design, as this chemical agent that makes it possible. It instantly reveals objects touched by whichever person is under investigation.
Really, Mr. Sholmes?
As long as it doesn't turn everything completely odorous and black. I assure you, my dear fellows, you will witness my forensic talents in action very soon indeed. Well, I think we should go back to the scene and see if we can uncover any new clues.
That's the spirit, Bruno. See you later.
Yes, until later. No, Mr. Sholmes, we were thinking you'd come with us. You were.
Yes, of course. You said so just a moment ago.
You said we witnessed your forensic talents in action. Ah, yes. I do recall saying something along those lines. But you go on ahead. I shall be sure to follow you later. In all likelihood. Probably. Maybe. Well, I might. Your commitment astounds me.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sholmes. We'll eagerly await your arrival. Bye-bye, Bruno. Bye, Susie.
Okay, I guess we're going. Ah, so that's why we needed, can't find any more clues without Mr. Sholmes. Alright. Mr. Sholmes, what are you up to over there? What a question indeed. Was it not your good self who asked me to attend the scene? Oi! What are you doing here, Sholmes? What are you up to over there? What are you doing here? Dear me. Once a great detective, one is always under scrutiny, it seems.
Is now the time, Mr. Sholmes? Are you about to show us your forensic talents in action as you promised?
With the greatest of pleasure, my dear madam. What's all this? All this is precisely what you requested, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you supposed to eat fish and chips like that? Isn't it hot? He's been holding that for a while. It's his ongoing breakfast. Herlock Sholmes' sensational skin print seeker gun. Moments ago, I took a sample from the teacup that was used by the victim. A sample? From Mr. Chancellor's cup? Each individual leaves microscopic secretions on everything he or she touches. A sample of those secretions is all I need to produce this, a fine indicator solution. By liberally spraying the room with this chemical, everything the victim touched is instantly revealed with the aid of these goggles. Here, try them on. Whoa. There, now spray the chemical indicator about and all will be revealed. Spray? How do I do that exactly? A little press of A on the area you're interested in is all that's required. Like this. Ah, what is that stuff? It's like fog. The suspension of the chemical indicator in a pressurized gas is the most efficient way to cover a large area. That was another invention I discovered incidentally whilst I was developing this idea. As you do. Go ahead, try it, my dear fellow. We may learn something interesting about the victim's movements on the night in question. Well, there's nothing to lose, I suppose. Let's explore. Spoosh. 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 Maybe this envelope. Nope. The window? Oh, yep. Didn't touch that cup. What about the stove? What about the meter? Yep. The light? Nope. Oh, geez. Look, there are dozens of handprints here. So there are. A great many indeed. So much that it's hard to make out any one individual print, in fact. It sends a chill down my spine. Perhaps he was leaning against the wall while he admired this picture? Unlikely, I would say. It's a rather dull scene, after all. And without wishing to state the obvious, I wouldn't generally admire a picture from such close quarters, I feel. Oh, very true, Mr. Seto. It's a bit of a mystery, then. Something very odd about that, for sure. Maybe something stored behind the picture? Okay. So I guess nothing else. Probably. Nope, no reason. He just really likes the painting. Oh, the floor. Okay. Oh, look at all this here. Ah, yes, interesting. A multitude of the victim's handprints. Why are there so many of them on the floor in this one spot? Oh, perhaps he had a bad fall just there? There's nothing obvious that he would have tripped over, though, is there? I wonder. Personally, I often stumble when there's nothing obvious to trip over. I think that's something only a great detective would do, Mr. Sholmes. Well, this is quite a puzzle. Handprints all over the floor. The story mode button, it basically just plays the game for you, so you can just watch the whole thing happen. So it's like the movie mode button, and it'll just like do everything. So it's definitely handy when you get stuck like that. Like I just did, so that's why I used it. It'll just autoplay the whole game, pretty much. Yes, there's no obvious explanation. Well, we sprayed Mr. Sholmes' amazing skin print indicator all over this room, didn't we? We did. But there are two places in particular that are of interest, I would say. The handprints on the floor there. And on the wall by the picture, you mean? Yes, and I think the floor warrants closer investigation. I won't be a moment. Definitely that panel, for sure. Oh, she found it. Ah! What is it, Mr. Sato? Look here, Mr. Naruhodo. One of the floorboards has popped out. One of the... You mean... It's a secret hiding place? Excellent work, Miss Susato. So, what do we have in here? Oi! What are you lot doing? Inspector Gregson? Stand aside right this minute. It's my job to investigate there. No need, Inspector. You continue to dig in your portion of chips whilst we dig around under the floor there. You fancy talk's been putting me off my food anyway, Sholmes. A new bit of evidence is exactly what I need. Wow, a secret hiding place under the floor. What a find. It's not a hiding place you can make use of in Japan. I don't think you could lift a straw tatami mat. No, I know, but I never experienced one of these wooden floorboards to move either. It's got me wondering about the wall over there too. Aren't you curious?
Oh! I'll investigate it once. There's nothing behind the picture, sadly. Only the wall.
How disappointing.
But then, how do you explain the handprints? I really can't think why anyone would have been touching the wall over and over in one place like that.
There you are, a print for you. Photograph of the handprints on the wall. Oh, nice. I wish more houses had secret hiding places. That would be cool. I would appreciate that. Handprints on the wall. Traces of handprints on the wall discovered using the skin print secret gun. There are multiple prints on either side of a hanging picture. Okay, let's take a look at that really quick. Ah, so pretty much exactly what we saw before. Oh, thank you very much. His invention can take prints too? Now then. I wonder if Inspector Crickson has found anything under the floor there. I'm desperate to know.
So am I.
Tell us. I'd love to know if there's anything hidden underneath that floorboard there. Allow me to ask Gregson now. After all, we're well acquainted. Inspector Gregson. Really, it's been too long. What is it, Sholmes? I thought perhaps you might show me what you found there, seeing as we're such good friends. We're not friends. No, I suppose not. A dismal failure. Yes, I heard. Ugh, I killed know what was under that floorboard. All right then, fair's fair. What? You did discover the hiding place after all. I suppose I should at least fill you in.
Really, Inspector? Thank you.
Do it quickly, my dear fellow. If there's one thing I know about this man, is that he blows with the wind, as fickle as the weather. Oi, stop making me to be some kind of nut. There are 3 items on the floor there. A newspaper clipping, a photographic print, and a tin box. Now, what do you want to know? Looks like this was cut out of the paper about 3 months ago. It's about a convict who got sick and died while he was serving time up at Manchester. How terrible. It made the headlines down here in London as well. The bloke had been sentenced to death, you see, but nature caught him first.
Oh my goodness. He committed a capital offense?
Man by the name of Selden. Nasty piece of work into burglaries and murder. They say the hoard he knocked off was worth about £1,000. A hoard? Of treasure, you mean? Jewellery and the like, but he'd hidden it somewhere, and no one knows where. And now he's dead. The papers loved it, of course. £1,000 lost and en route to hell, or some such was the headline. Does not strike you, though, why such an article would be so carefully ensconced under the floor. I suppose, now you mention it, it does seem a bit odd. Perhaps I'll go over the paperwork we've got on Selden back at the yard and see if I can turn anything up. Capital offender article. A newspaper article about Selden, a criminal sentenced to receive the death penalty. However, he died of illness in prison whilst his loot remained undiscovered. Condemned criminal dies of natural causes in prison. Manchester's Strangeways prison announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the early hours this morning. He had been suffering with fever since the end of October. Alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. Interesting. Alright. Photographic print.
So, this is a photograph I found. Looks reasonably recent to me.
Oh, it's that guy.
Yes, it would appear to have been taken on the street in front of the house here.
You think his death with the same poison is all connected? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know, though. That'd be crazy if that's true.
And the gentleman on the left is Mr. Garrideb, the landlord, of course.
But here's the young man on the right. Mr. Garrideb's son, perhaps?
Perhaps. You can take that print if you like.
Really? Are you sure?
We can presume, therefore, that the Yard already knows. The identity of the young fellow, that is.
Ah, is that true?
Well, it's too bad if we do. Unfortunately for you lot, leaking information isn't one of my pastimes. My dear Inspector, if I may be so bold as to point something out. Pastimes are for one's leisure, but this is for work. All the more reason I'm not telling you. A dismal failure. Yes, I heard.
The hidden photograph. A photographic print found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. It shows the landlord, Mr. Garrideb, together with a young man. I wonder why a photograph like this was hidden under the floor. I mean, Mr. Shamspeare himself isn't in it.
Photographic prints are still rare treasures in the East End. I imagine Mr. Garrideb was rather delighted to have been immortalized. He probably made a proud present of it.
Tin box.
Now this tin box looks interesting, doesn't it? Might I suggest, Inspector, that you open it? If you were to find something inside that reveals the truth behind this case. I wouldn't be in the least surprised. Yeah, funnily enough, I've already had a look. It's completely empty. What? Shamspeare, give us a clue, man.
We didn't even have the chance to utter a word, Mr. Naruhodo. But anyway, at least we found out what's inside the box. Yes, thin air. It's empty, rather like how I feel inside. Is there nothing more to this box then? I wonder. Oh, cat.
Oh, look! I saw a lovely little kitty cat. What was his name?
It's Mr. Natsume's, isn't it? I don't think we ever asked him, actually. Why don't we call it, Wagahai? You know, like Mr. Natsume refers to himself in Japanese. Wonder how he got in here, clever cat.
Oh, wonderful. Well then, Wagahai. Here's something delicious I bought for you.
From the cat's meat man. From the cat's meat man. Nom 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 nom. Cat, do you know what happened to Mr. Shamspeare and Mr. Natsume? Meow.
He couldn't be happier now, look.
I just hope we can bring some happiness to his owner, too. Examine the cat. Oh yeah. Hello, cat. Meow. That was a cheeky little meow, Wagahai.
Oh, but he's so adorable. I could sit and watch him forever.
I think he may not appreciate that after a while. And we have an investigation to get back to. Okay. Nothing else to talk about, I guess? Maybe we can go to the hospital now. See if there's anything new there really quick. Nothing? Okay. That's fine. Oh yeah, we can go to the, maybe Mr. Garrideb, but we can go to the, let's go to the prison first. See how Mr. Natsume is doing. 22nd February, local prison, cell 9. Oh, Mr. Natsume is back. So he is. Mr. Natsume? Hello?
I am a cat.
Sorry?
I don't know who Mr. Natsume is, or Herlock Sholmes. I don't know about courts, or trials, or Old Baileys. I am a cat. That's what I am, just a cat.
Mr. Naruhodo, he's trying to escape from reality. Trying to? He already has, completely. So, what is your name then?
As yet, I have no name.
Mr. Naruhodo hasn't fully thought out his new identity yet. Maybe it's not too late to bring him back to reality. Do you think you could open your eyes for us, Mr. Natsume?
I am not a cat.
It worked. He's back in the real world.
What's going to become of me? No! Don't answer that. It's obvious. My accursed soul is never going to escape this accursed fate.
Mr. Natsume, no! This morning's proceedings in court prove that there's hope.
Yes. Welcome to Mr. Naruhodo Esquire was brilliant, but the Reaper is omnipresent in court, in my lodgings, here, there, everywhere.
What's he looking straight at me for? I think perhaps there are some things we should discuss.
Oh, yes, we must.
This morning's trial.
In my whole life, have I ever been so moved as I was today? No! Of course, if I cast my mind back, there are perhaps 1 or 2 other occasions that moved me more. But if I just block those out, then today, being in that courtroom was... It was the most moving experience of my life. Welcome to Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
You're too kind. Scotland Yard found the remaining tea, just as we deduced, and are analyzing it as we speak.
There's nothing wrong with that tea. They won't find a drop of poison in it. That's a solemn, sworn, Suzuki certainty.
Tell me, did you both drink the tea at the same time that night?
Oh yes, most definitely. Remember, drink tea while it's hot. We both poured it down our throats like it was a hot bath for our bellies.
And at the time, you were both completely fine. As shown by the fact that he and Mr. Shamster then engaged in a Romeo-Juliet match. I suppose the focus of tomorrow's proceedings will be how the poison was taken by the victim then. Mr. Shamspear.
That rotten Shamspear? What have I ever done to him?
You don't recall him taking issue with you over anything you've done recently?
I've been holed up in my room, immersed in books. I don't recall anything. Anything at all.
Right.
But what I don't understand is why he didn't let me know sooner.
Let you know what, Mr. Natsume?
About the soup, of course. What else?
Oh, dear. Are you struggling with such a meager stipend?
Of course I am, if I had money. But I wouldn't have chosen to live an accursed existence in such accursed lodgings.
Oh, yes. You said it's because the place is cursed that it's so cheap, didn't you?
Exactly. Especially the room that I rent. The spirit of that capital offender who lived there still haunts the place. And is trying to kill me.
Capital offender?
Might I ask? Welcome to Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, that the next time you visit me, you'll bring scores of super soft soaps.
Oh. So this guy... It must be this guy.
What's this?
It's a newspaper cutting that we found in Mr. Shamspear's room.
So he knew, did he?
Sorry?
About this man, Selden. The convicted killer, and the evil spirit behind the curse that afflicts my lodgings.
What?
He's already taken one young man's life, and now he's trying to take the life of another, a miserable mustached, much maligned Japanese man.
Mr. Natsume, if you know something, please. You must tell us. Tell us everything you can about this evil spirit. Capital offender Sheldon. Selden.
The truth is, I don't know the details myself until very recently. That Selden man was arrested about a year ago now. And at the time, he was hiding out in lodgings at Mr. Garridup's house.
What? He lived where you do now?
That's right, yes. Exactly where I live now. In my very room.
Oh my. Your room was previously occupied by a criminal found guilty of capital offense?
Before his sentence could be carried out, he died in prison. That was 3 months ago now. And that's when it started. The curse!
What really is this curse you keep mentioning, Mr. Natsume?
It's already caused one death, a few months after the criminal passed away in prison. A man died in the room. A man who rented it after Selden, in fact. The poor lodger, he was found dead in mysterious circumstances. The room was locked from inside.
Locked from the inside? Exactly like the case we're dealing with now.
So,
that's the convict's curse, is it?
Yes, well, that was the start of it.
The convict's curse. Do you have any idea how the lodger before you passed away, Mr. Natsume?
The official cause of death was asphyxia. When they discovered the body, the room was full of gas.
Gas?
I only found that out after I'd signed the lease. When Mr. Garrideb came to tell me later, I couldn't stop myself from trembling. In fact, if I'd known beforehand, I probably would have been too scared to take the room. Landlord's lease, luckily legal.
Lucky for Mr. Garrideb, maybe, but not so lucky for poor Mr. Natsume. And now you believe this curse is affecting you?
It is. It is. At first, I just felt as though I was being watched. All the time.
And then you talked about having nightmares, didn't you?
The dead are trying to take me with them. They come for me and try to suffocate me. Just when I'm struggling to breathe, I wake up. And the room is as cold as ice.
But why is your room so cold?
London winters are too cold to bear without any heating on overnight. But for some reason, even though I light the stove before I come to bed at night, pilot light always goes out and the room fills with gas.
But that's terrible. That's exactly the same situation as what led to the previous occupant's death. And then there's what happened to Mr. Shamsphere last night, when he was mysteriously poisoned. There's clearly more to that incident than can be explained by a curse, though. It's just a gas leak, maybe. That's what I'm guessing, because that's what it sounds like. Whatever can be the cause of all these strange happenings in Mr. Garrideb's rooms? There's anything else we need to show him? I don't think so. Let's go talk to Mr. Garrideb. And show him the picture of him and the mystery man. 22nd February, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's room. Ah, you're here now, Mr. Garrideb.
Right, bally business it is for me, you know. Getting out and about.
Were you at the Old Bailey by any chance?
Naturally. Fate of my lodgings hanging in the balance and all that. Not a trial to miss.
The fate of what's already been dubbed your haunted lodgings, yes.
Of course, the place has caused quite a stir around the capital on more than one occasion already. Has the old haunted lodgings or some such.
Ah, well, at least he knows.
Makes you wonder what the blazes is going on, don't you know?
Yes, I'm sure it does. In fact, thinking back to Mr. Natsume's other trial just 2 days ago. You were at the Old Bailey then as well, weren't you? Testifying with your wife about what happened.
Stopped off at the prison on the way home, in fact. Beastly business.
I see.
So, what brings you to my haunted abode today, eh?
Your lodgings.
Some fishy fellow from the Far East and a failed actor chap of questionable character, eh? Yes. The house does seem to have become something of a magnet for rum fellows of late. Thanks to that bally curse.
The convict's curse, you mean?
Ah, heard the stories, have you? Rotten scoundrel was arrested here, and the next chap in the room goes and kills over. Then there was that woman who just dropped dead just outside the street, not to mention the actor yesterday. Am I next, eh? Well, can't help but get the collywobbles, can you?
When you say the woman who dropped dead outside on the street, do you mean Miss Green? Because Miss Green, who was stabbed by the knife, and Mr. Shamster, who was poisoned last night, are both very much alive still.
Yes, well, so is that blasted convict's curse, it seems. Personally, I should be quite content with such lodgings. A bath, a toilet, a fireplace, and a fascinating history. Why? It sounds like the lap of luxury.
I'm not so sure about that.
Well, there's no bath or toilet included, and no fireplace either.
But you do look out for your tenants, don't you? By watching the rise and fall of the flames in your gas lamps up here.
Yes, never hurts to keep an eye on things, in case there are any mishaps or such like.
I think you've had your mishap already, sir. That's not helpful, Mr. Sholmes.
Heaven forgive me, the words just came to my lips.
Your lodgers.
Some fishy fellow from the Far East, and a failed actor chap of questionable character, eh?
There's no need for that, Mr. Garadeb. That's right. Mr. Natsume is no way fishy.
He is undeniably peculiar, however.
Is it right that he took the vacancy immediately after the previous tenant passed away?
Yes, that's right. I asked the estate agent to find someone and he popped up the very same day. Never come across a chap so keen for a place with background, as it were.
I don't think it was the room's background that he was keen on, so much as the cheap rent, actually. So, how long has Mr. Shamspeare been lodging under your roof?
That failed actor chap? Let me see here. Oh, of course. Yes, it's been 3 months now. Quite sure of it.
Only 3 months. He's quite new here too, then.
And to what do you owe your certainty in that regard, Mr. Garadeb, if I may ask? Well, it was that Selden scoundrel, as it happens.
Selden? The convict, you mean? Selden and Shamster have some kind of connection, then. Shamster's tendency.
That convict chap, Selden, passed away in the clink 3 months ago now, you see. Some malady or other.
Yes, we've seen the report from the newspaper at the time.
Well, it was only 3 days later that the tragedian showed his face. The actor fellow.
Really?
Yes, I remember it quite distinctly.
'Tis small, this world we inhabit. Prithee, landlord, hear my request. I, the humble Shamspeare, do desire to take thy room on the middle floor, offered ere while for rent.
Terribly sorry and whatnot, but that won't be possible. I would have a lodger on the middle floor. Ground floor's room's vacant, though.
Nothing can be made out of nothing. Let me repeat, mine will unto thee.
Those crows must be muffling your ears. The room on the middle floor is taken. It's ground floor or nothing.
Very well. We have an accord.
Glad to hear it. Welcome to Briar Road.
Lo, a Shamspeare dance to celebrate.
From what I heard in the court today, sounds like the chap was thieving gas. He was 3 months in arrears and with rent too. Yes, the fellow was a bally player, all right. Thank you for your candor, Mr. Garadeb. We are most grateful. By the way of appreciation, allow me to say 1 or 2 words. Give me my robe, put on my crown. I have immortal longings in me. What's happened to you? Shakespeare, my dear fellow. One of his most famous lines. I wish to divulge my own learning of the subject, for I have a turn for literature too, you know.
Perhaps you could turn your attention to more apt lines then. Alright. So what about this guy? Mr. Garrett, could I ask you to look at this photograph? Is that your son who's with you there?
No, not at all. He was a lodger here once. Duncan Ross was his name.
Duncan Ross.
A street photographer happened to be passing, so I asked him to take a shot. Just for kicks, really.
Is he by any chance the lodger before Mr. Natsume?
Yes, that's right. Ah, the young gentleman who died in the room in mysterious circumstances. Just what Mr. Mustache was waiting for, one might say. Yes, young Duncan lived in the room at the top of the flight of the stairs before that Japanese chap.
Would you mind telling us a little more about him?
Lodger's death. Yes, Duncan Ross. Young chap was attending art school. Had to work to pay for it, mind. Moved into the middle floor room about a year ago, after that criminal Selden was arrested. Young students are always on the hunt for rooms with a history behind them.
A history of cheap rent, maybe, yes.
Yes, well, anyway. There was one morning about a month ago now. Hadn't quite worked out the old trick of washing their gas lamps to see what my lodgers are up to at the time. So, sadly, I was rather tardy to discover what had happened. The smell of gas that alerted me it was. Ah, yes. Synonymous with the smell of death. Called the police straight away, of course, and the officer kicked the door off its hinges. But once we got inside, we all badly collapsed.
Because of the gas?
Yes, room was full of it. No air at all. So must have gone out while the poor chap was sleeping in his bed.
So Mr. Ross suffocated to death.
Of course, the police gave me a sound ticking off because the gas pipes were so old and all that. Can't tell you how much it set me back to have the lot replaced all over the house.
But even after you had all that work done, Mr. Natsume says the same thing. The stove goes out at night whilst he's asleep in bed.
Well, that's the Bally curse. The convict's curse. I've done my duty as the landlord now.
Someone's feeling defensive.
Ah, that reminds me, actually.
Yes?
About young Duncan, the night before the old chap perished. He'd been writing a letter of affection to a young lady.
A love letter, you mean?
Yes. Where did I put it now? Ah, here it is. Left it on my desk. If you'll excuse me. Let me see now. What does it say? To my most beautiful and charming sweetheart.
Do you think that we should be reading such a personal piece of correspondence?
My dear Miss Susato, that is precisely why I prefaced my reading with, if you'll excuse me.
I will not excuse you, Mr. Sholmes. No.
Sadly, he didn't address it, though. So I have no means of delivering the thing. Rather sad, really.
I see. That's gonna play on my mind. But really, the identity of Mr. Ross's sweetheart has no bearing on the case. I think we should leave well alone.
Yes, I suppose you're right. Indeed, the intended recipient's address is missing. However, there is a name attributed to the man's most beautiful and charming sweetheart.
Mr. Sholmes, please. I've already had to chastise you about this once.
My undying love to you, my colourful darling. Olive Green.
Olive Green? The woman who was plunged into a coma after a knife plunged in her back outside this house 5 days ago. The victim of the last case Soseki-san was in court for, regained consciousness only yesterday. Is it just chance that her name has come up now? Could it possibly be mere coincidence? Mr. Naruhodo, whatever can this mean?
Reading personal correspondence can have its merits, you see, Mr. Sato. Ha 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 ha.
Everything's connected.